What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Lex Alexas. Today it is our championship review after match day 41. We have definitely had some results that a lot of people are going to be talking about, a lot of controversial refereeing decisions, and the action really does not stop here. On the Friday, we've got another full set of championship games. So the scheduling this week is going to be absolutely crazy. But today we're going to be going through what happened in the last 2 days. Obviously, Huddersfield play Luton tonight, which I won't be reviewing in this video. But every other game will be covered. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Let's aim for 20 likes in this video. I think that'll be terrifically appreciative. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so, as we're trying to push to 1,100 subscribers now. And please share this channel if you haven't. It will really help the growth of this channel. But without any further ado, let's start reviewing what happened in these weekend's games. So the hard-hitting game this weekend was supposedly supposed to be Sheffield United versus Bournemouth. I mean, it was a top 6 clash. We saw a team aspiring to finish in the top 6 against a team who were out of the top 6, but they were in the automatic promotion places. It ended in a bit of a damp squid with a 0-0 draw. Now, I probably should have expected that. Both teams were determined not to lose in that game, and both were relatively good and comfortable in their own areas. If I had to edge a team, I mean, if you look at possession, 50-50. So on the ball, the teams did very similar, bits of play. But I would say over the 90 minutes, I think Sheffield United had the better chances. One big chance in particular which stood out was actually near the end of the first half, where Mark Travers made an outstanding reflex save to deny Morgan Gibbs-White. I think both teams were just simply determined to try and keep a clean sheet. And unfortunately, especially with Sheffield United's perspective, they really squandered their chances. Both teams did not look very clinical, and both would want a response when they're playing their next game. And I think Bournemouth in particular will be under pressure, especially with the fact that now Nottingham Forest are now closing the gap on them to potentially overtake them in the top 2. So both teams will be under a severe amount of pressure. The game between Blackburn and Blackpool ended as a 1-1 draw in this Lancashire derby. And I got to say, when I looked at the game, I thought Blackburn were actually pretty good at the start of the game. Obviously, they got an early goal from it, but they were very lucky not to fall behind in the early part of the game. CJ Hamilton was put 1-on-1 on goal, and it was actually a really good save in the end by Kaminsky in goal. But that sort of vulnerability showed that there was a little bit of fragility in Blackburn's defence, which does pay them a price later on. But the goal ended in the most championship way possible. Long goal kick, finds Sam Gallagher past his defender, 1-on-1 with the opposing goalkeeper Chris Maxwell to make it 1-0 to Blackburn. And I do think, whilst Blackburn did score, I was hoping that they were going to actually really try and build on this goal. But despite Ben Brereton starting for the first time, I think, since February, they didn't really look very comfortable. They looked very nervy, actually, on the ball, which is something that they can't afford to do, especially if they want to try and chase for those top 6 places. Blackpool sensed those nerves and really attacked it. And in the end of it, very early on in the second half, Akita got the equalising goal, ultimately a defensive mess from trying to clear a corner. Based on chances, I think Blackpool were actually the closest team to winning this game. So poor for Blackburn's path, definitely a lack of control and lack of management, and a lot of nervousness which they need to try and get out of their game. But Blackpool, this ends a really poor run of 2 defeats in a row. It now gives them a very well-deserved draw, and if anything, maybe a little bit unlucky they didn't get the full 3 points. The game between Bristol City and Peterborough ended as a 1-1 draw. Now, I was surprised I got this right, but then when I looked at the highlights, I'm actually not too shocked. Now, actually, this game was closer than I thought, and what I'm noticing already, Peterborough are already creating a lot more. 16 shots this time. I've remembered previously when Peterborough was struggled to crack over 5 shots a game under Darren Ferguson, but it's clear under Grant McCann, he's definitely wanting this team to play with more desire, play with, answering more questions and asking more questions. Now, Bristol City took the lead with Rob Atkinson in really, really good style. It was a corner and a great headed goal on his part to make it 1-0. But when Peterborough went down to 10 men, which was a red card, Ward got sent off by bringing down the last man for Bristol City. It definitely denied a goal scoring opportunity. But Peterborough still kept in this game. Bristol City failed to capitalise on the extra man on the field. And Johnson Clark-Harris, who has been scoring some goals recently, he scored in their last game against Luton, scores again for Peterborough in this game to make it 1-1. It's 2 consecutive 1-1 draws. And I can sense the frustration going on with Bristol City's fans. They were chanting, "This is embarrassing," apparently, in the final 10 minutes of the game. So it's not looking too optimistic in terms of the fans' view of Bristol City. They really got to try and evaluate their options going forward. As with Peterborough, could be too little too late, unfortunately, if they're now starting to pick up some consistency. Now, what a shock this was. Middlesbrough, who were winning 8 home league games in a row, decided to lose 2 home games on the bounce, both by 1-goal scorelines. Losing to Fulham's no disgrace, but losing to Hull City can be seen as a disgrace. But I will give Hull City some credit and actually encourage them with the fact that they are actually 5 unbeaten away from home. So they do tend to have great results on the road. And that 1-0 win proved it here. Now, when you look at chances, definitely Middlesbrough had more of a ball. They had more shots on target. Ultimately, Middlesbrough just weren't clinical. Ingram was very, very alert in his goal. And I think the goal that came in the end by Keane Lewis-Potter, I really do think Lumley should do better than that there. I think he definitely squandered it. His positioning was all wrong. He doesn't cover his post very, very well. It's a great strike by Keane Lewis-Potter, and actually that's his 10th goal of the season. So fair play to Keane Lewis-Potter by reaching that milestone for this season. But this defeat for Middlesbrough really puts them in the precarious position, really. They have only got 1 more game in hand with all the teams in the top 6 as of now. And if they don't win that, they could be in serious trouble for not getting into the top 6. So Middlesbrough got to be very careful, as with Hull. They've not got much to play for, but if they carry on these performances, maybe it could be something to look forward to for next season. Now, we've got a very one-sided scoreline between Millwall and Barnsley. It ended 4-1 to Millwall, and it does seem like a team that has been a little bit dejected of recent results, and a team that is definitely going to serve relegation. And that really disappoints me, because Barnsley actually picked up a really good draw last time, but then with this game, they just really were second best for most of it. Millwall went into this game in similar form to Barnsley, actually. Only 1 win in 6, and their form was starting to really, get out of hand a little bit. They were losing chances of getting into the top 6. They try and reignite their top 6 hopes with this win. Danny McNamara, the fullback, actually got 2 goals in the first half. And actually, he did really, really well. And very well composed goals. And what I will say, very well constructed goals as well. I'm really loving the teamwork going on with Afobe and Jed Wallace. They're moving around very well. Scott Malone was brilliant again in that game as well. Well, Parner got the only goal for Barnsley. It was actually a really, really nice goal. I've got to give him credit there. But overall, they were second best, Barnsley, for most of that game. And Millwall were actually very, very comfortable. Bill Kowski was, called upon to make some crucial saves. But on the whole, Millwall were very, very ruthless going forward. 15 shots and 10 shots on target. And that tells you that Millwall were very eager to get something. So, don't think it reignites their chances of top 6 for me. But at least it can give them a really good finish. As with Barnsley, they really are running out of games now. I really do think they could have their relegation sealed in the next 2 games. Now, Nottingham Forest are proving to be one of the success stories of this season. They win again by 2-0, 6 consecutive wins. And only 6 points behind second place Bournemouth, who they have to play in the penultimate game week of the season. The excitement levels I have for that game are unfathomable. That is actually going to be a season-defining game there. If I'm able to stream it, I'm actually going to stream this game. It is that important. Nottingham Forest have to keep this consistency, and of course, Bournemouth, would have to drop some points along the way. And whether both of these things happen, we'll find out. But Keenan Davis scored the first opening goal. I'm in brilliant confidence on his part. And I've got to say, I'm really pleased for Keenan Davis, because I'm really glad he made the move down to the Championship. If he was going to be stuck with Aston Villa where he wasn't really getting any game time, it would have really wasted his career. So I'm really glad for him that he's really showing the quality striker that he is, getting in from behind, the runs he makes, the timed runs, the passes. I'm really impressed with Keenan Davis. Now, Birmingham did have an odd spell, especially in the end of the first half, where they started to gain some control back. There was a rare moment that Scott Hogan managed to wither him through and actually got a good amount of space. And Brice Samba did have to be quite alert at times. So it wasn't easy for Forest, I'll tell you that. But they made it look easy from the scoreline. It ended 2-0. Scott McKenna eventually got the second goal, and it was from the corners, and Birmingham had enough warning signs. They already had a couple of dangerous corners being put in, and if they're going to concede one too many corners, they're eventually going to concede it if they weren't defensively switched on. And in that moment, Scott McKenna was more alert than anyone else, got a touch into the net to make it 2-0 to Nottingham Forest. It would actually probably be the biggest comeback of any championship team I've ever seen if they could get into the top 2. It would be absolutely unbelievable. Considering where they were, it'll be absolutely unbelievable. As with Birmingham, I think a bit similar to Hull, they're a bit complacent at the moment, they've not really got much to play for. Let's just hope that with their recent performances, and if Boro can probably use some youth players, maybe there could be a bit of optimism for Birmingham City for next season at least. Next game between Preston and QPR ends Preston 2, QPR 1. Preston win back-to-back games, which they don't do all that much, which is very sad with Preston, that they're not entirely consistent. But one thing that is consistent is QPR losing games. It's 5 consecutive defeats now. But their injury crisis is almost getting ridiculous at this point. It's the 5th different goalkeeper that QPR have had to use this season. Kieran Westwood was injured in a warm-up, and Mahoney, the 18-year-old goalkeeper, had to step out and make his professional debut. But what I will say, both of Preston's goals, I don't think were at the fault of Mahoney at all, actually. And he was there to make some crucial saves. He did have a bit of experience at times, when he dealt with Maguire. Sure, he spilled it straight to him, but he did well, actually, to save the rebound there. The goals came from a Jimmy Dunn own goal, although I'm almost debating whether it was Emil Reece-Jacobson with the touch, but it was brilliant play in the left-hand side and a brilliant cross. But Cameron Archer scores the goal in that game. Unbelievable accuracy. His 6th goal in 11 matches now. I'm telling you, if he is at Preston next year, he could be something very special for this Preston side. He made it 2-0, and what I will say, QPR really should have scored more than that one goal. Dozzle missed a one-on-one. We had Chair not being able to capitalise on Preston giving the ball away in the defensive line. There were so many gilt-edged chances that QPR have missed, and that's really cost them. Their confidence is rock bottom. They did get one goal back from a penalty, but by that time it's the 93rd minute. It was too little too late for them. So Preston, good win for him. Queen's Park Rangers, things are looking really, really nervy now. They're just continuously dropping down the table. And what a dramatic game this was. So, Reading did take the lead in this game with Lucas João. A brilliant cross by Yeardem, actually, to find the head of Lucas João. But Cardiff, with a really poor first half, completely turned it around in the second half to make it 2-1. And we said this so often with Cardiff. With Steve Morrison coming in, their trend is that Cardiff play really well in the second half. And that is what we saw there. They barely was able to put a forward pass without giving it away or, misplacing it or, having it intercepted. But with their 2 goals in that second half, it was the 2 best passages of play from both teams I've seen. It was really, really good. Joe Rules played a really integral part into it as well. Colwell was brilliant. Doughty got the first goal. Real Volt scoring the second goal at the end. Brilliant play, actually. And the fact that, Reading's defence were nowhere near, the attack, but they completely stretched it. It was 2 really well-worked goals, and I've got to give Cardiff a lot of credit for that. They find themselves actually in a decentish position now, Cardiff. They're definitely safe on the job. As with Reading, they're a bit lucky in a way that Barnsley and Derby and Peterborough have not been able to win their games in this weekend. So I think Reading will still be okay. I think give it a couple of game weeks, they'll be okay. But they would have only been 1 point away of securing survival had they won that game. So a bit frustrating for Reading. They have got a tough game against Sheffield United coming up as well. So they've got to be a bit patient and just keep their eyes on the bottom 3. But I think with the 8 points that they got in their last 4 games, I think that 8-point gap should be enough for them. Now, this is the game I'm alluding to. Swansea 2, Derby 1. If had Derby won this game, it would make things very interesting in the relegation battle. But it is looking like the 3 relegated teams are confirmed, and that definitely confirms it with this game with Derby against Swansea. Now, Swansea started like a house on fire, scoring 2 goals in the space of 8 minutes from Joel Pirro, his 19th and 20th goal of the season. I got to say, he has done really, really well, Joel Pirro. I've really, really been impressed with him this season. I think he's one that took a bit of a while to get going, but I think he's done really, really well to really be that key striker for Swansea. His positioning has dramatically improved and his confidence going forward has dramatically improved as well. Now, Derby did get a penalty in the 22nd minute when Tom Lawrence managed to score the penalty. In the end, Luke Planche managed to get fouled by Andy Fisher, the Swansea goalkeeper. There were a lot of controversial moments in that game. There was potentially an odd moment where, you know, maybe the goalkeeper for Derby should have got sent off by interfering play. There was also a moment where Derby felt they should have had a penalty in stoppage time. So there was so much controversy going on in that game. But I do think with it equaled out with both of the teams' fortunes, I think this is fair. I honestly would say Derby away from home are just too unreliable, and that's been shown in this game. Swansea, I mean, they are, you know, performing out of their skin right now. Their form has been absolutely sublime. So Swansea managed to win 4 games out of their last 5, 3 wins in a row, and they could really finish top half if they carry on. As with Derby, it's looking pretty bleak now, only 5 games left, and they've got to try and breach a gap of over 9 points. It's not looking great, isn't it? The penultimate game I'm going to talk about is between West Brom and Stoke. That ended 3-1 to the away team. Now, with this game, I was almost certain that I was going to be wrong with. You know, I predicted a really, really dull game. This was one of the games where we've seen 2 mid-table teams not playing with much to play for. But what we saw was Stoke completely show, you know, their good side of their form. And the reason why I didn't back Stoke is because of their loss to Reading. So it's just showing how unreliable Stoke can be. But then with West Brom, the fact they beat Bournemouth and then they lose at home to Stoke, both teams have been so inconsistent and unreliable at this stage of the season. And it's a shame for them because both, you know, going forward have shown great quality going forward. But it is Stoke that managed to get all 3 points. First goal comes in from Jake Livermore. Now, what I will say, and I'm really disappointed with West Brom is their lack of, you know, awareness, especially with quick free kicks. The first 2 goals for Stoke came from 2 quick Tommy Smith free kicks, and the builder came in from one Jake Livermore on goal, and the second one came from Jacob Brown managing to make a ghosting run past the back line, and he managed to score to make it 2-0 Stoke. Now, Callum Robinson did manage to score 1 goal. It was actually Sam Johnston, a long, very direct goal actually. Colin Grant tried to latch onto it. A bit of pinball going on, but then Robinson managed to make it 2-1. But then, with West Brom committing bodies forward, on the counter-attack, Josh Margin makes an exquisite pass to find Lewis Baker. He taps into an empty net to make it 3-1 Stoke. Great win for Stoke, but for West Brom, you know, I am not confident, especially if they're going to stick with these same players for next year. And then the final game to talk about, another 3-1 away win, but this time for Coventry against Fulham. Fulham were determined to get their revenge, but Coventry said no. They managed to get another league win over Fulham. One of the few teams this season who has done the double over Fulham. Fulham have only lost 7 games this season, and 2 of those defeats have come to the hands of Coventry City. They will be buzzing with this win. They scored 2 goals in 4 minutes with Michael Rose and Victor Gyökeres. Michael Rose scoring a great goal from a headed corner. Gyökeres definitely shouldn't have got that goal. Rodak should have that covered, but Rodak's performance in general was absolutely shambolic. Not only did he concede a goal that was, you know, conceded with a shot straight at him, but he was slow with corners, decision making wasn't great, and then we actually managed to get a response from Fulham eventually. I mean, they definitely should have scored at least 1 goal. They hit the woodwork many times, including 1 great volley from Cabano. Mitrovic had chances. Bobby Reed had chances, and the substitute, of course. He managed to eventually score the goal. It was a nice, fast, quick play by Fulham to make it 2-1. But then, once again, with Rodak, and I don't think it's entirely Rodak's fault he doesn't cause his goal. It is a mistake pretty much from Tim Ream. He gets robbed off the ball by Gustavo Hamer, but Rodak is not quick enough to get the ball. He hesitates, but Callum O'Hare, with enough composure, scores to make it 3-1 to Coventry. What a win that is for Sky Blues. That is putting them up to 10th place in the table. Don't think they'll get top 6, but a top half finish will be absolutely amazing for them. As with Fulham, I think they still will go up. They definitely are going to go up, and they're by far the best team in the league. But it goes to show they do have this inconsistency in them sometimes. And when they fall behind, they really struggle to get a comeback there. So one thing that Marcus Silva will need to work on is game management when they fall behind in games. So that wraps it up, guys, for my review today. This is what the championship table looks like after matchday 41. Fulham still on 83 points. Bournemouth on 73 points. But Forest, Huddersfield, Luton and Sheffield United in the top 6. Luton and Huddersfield still got to play against each other tonight, so that could all change in the next coming hours. Now, in terms of the bottom 4, we've seen Reading now with a very comfy 8-point gap from Barnsley, Derby and Peterborough, and I think the latter 3 teams will get relegated. Whether in that order, we'll have to wait and find out. So guys, that will wrap it up for today's video today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do like the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel for more Championship content, and please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. That wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for the end of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.